start the recording real quick. Wasn't a whole lot working this past week. Looking at some of these currency pairs, you can see, whoops, let me put the euro dollar up here real quick on the top left-hand corner. My computer will oblige me. Where'd it go? Okay, there we go. We'll just do it that way. You can see by looking at the dollar, here's what the euro has done since last Wednesday, all sideways, CAD side, everything was really consolidated going to the holiday weekend. The yen made a little bit of a run up, but we haven't seen much movement in the markets. There's a real lack of liquidity in the markets, not only this morning, but going into last week. Kind of going to our trading sheet here to show you what's going on. Let me stop that script, whatever that is. There's a lot of the global markets today are on bank holidays. Euro, Swiss, Pound, New Zealand, Aussie, U.S. futures are up slightly, oil's up slightly. There's no real key news today that would affect the markets. So it looks as if there are things breaking out here, like euro looks like it's making a little bit of a break out of consolidation, as does the pound, the yen, the Swiss, the CAD, Aussie, and New Zealand. They all look like they're kind of making little small breaks out of their recent consolidation zones. The one thing I would tell you to worry about today, and this is one thing I'm kind of worried about today, is to be careful of false breaks. For example, if we were to look at let's say the pound up in here, and let me pull the pound up real quick so we can just have that on the screen. There we go. This is one of the reasons why I call it kind of looking at being careful for false breaks. It looks like it's breaking out to the upside here. Everything's pointing down on it from a liquidity provider standpoint. PitView tracks liquidity providers, but truth be told, there's not a whole lot of liquidity providers working in the markets right now with, it being a Euro, the largest amount of liquidity that gets thrust into the Forex market is generally out of the European and London banks, and it's a bank holiday over there today, being the day after Easter. So, this breakout right up here above the 4,200 level looks as if, okay, well, we have, a breakout occurring on the pound. Everything's, but it's showing -6 on the totals. It's winding down here on the LP trend line. It's making a divergence from the current move, which is kind of weird. So that's why I say, even looking at the, going around the horn to euro even, and then, to some of these other currencies that are breaking out today, euro looks the same way as the pound does. It looks as if it's making, a breakout to the upside, when in fact, and it's actually making some better headway here to where you can see the breakout occurring here. This one actually looks like there's some liquidity behind it right in through here. Not a whole lot of oomph in this, if you will. I mean, it's going +9, pounds -6. I'd be a little worried about or hesitant about trading a breakout on this euro dollar pair to the upside. I mean, a lot of these breakouts look like they're kind of obvious, to where you'd say, okay, well, this may have some legs to it to trade some of these breakouts that are occurring. But with the lack of liquidity in the markets, one thing I've learned is, these things can turn around extremely fast once you get into them. When there's a lack of liquidity hitting the market, that means that you can have volatile kind of whipsaw effects in the markets. So we're looking at the U.S. futures being up slightly. The one that really kind of looks a bit more tantalizing, if you will, is over here on the dollar Canadian. And here, let me pull that up here on this screen. If my computer will oblige me. My MetaTrader 4 is running kind of slow here this morning. With oil being up today and knowing that, you know, at the very least we do have North American markets are open today, you can kind of see all this consolidation that's been occurring right in here on the dollar CAD. And this little breakout to the downside here, we're still going to trade into, you know, either dollar strength or dollar weakness, you know, really just trade the market in either direction. Mondays, what I usually like to do on Mondays, the same reason I don't trade on Sunday nights is the same reason that I don't like really trading all that much this morning. And that reason being that, well, you know, we have you know, Sunday nights, you know, the first markets that open are New Zealand, Australia, then Japan. You got the Austrasian markets opening, and then you got the European and London markets opening at 3 a.m. on Monday morning for me, and then early Monday morning at 8 a.m. you got the U.S. banks starting to open up, and so, you know, that's one of the reasons why I always wait until Monday morning to really place any trades, is because I like to see all the markets get rolling first, to get all the liquidity thrust in the markets to where all the banks are open, had a chance to rotate, almost like a what you would call open outcry in the stock market. You know, once you get all the liquidity providers and market makers working in the market, that's Monday morning is always when I start looking at the market. It's very rare that I trade on Sunday nights. And that's the same reason here this morning. It's Monday morning, but we really haven't had a chance for all the markets to open up yet. So one thing that I would look for here on this dollar CAD, we'll just kind of zoom in a little bit on it. This would be more of a dollar week trade, but I do like the fact that you can see in this little trend here, it's been an uptrend, and you can see this longer term head and shoulders top that's formed right in through here. If you even look at it on like a 4-hour chart, it looks like a double top has formed right up in here on the dollar CAD. You got oil. One of the reasons why CAD went down a little bit at the end of last week is that oil went under 40 a barrel there right at the ass end of last week. But it is kind of breaking through this peak right here in the middle. But I'm going to be extremely cautious of how I approach any trades here. One thing that I would like to see on dollar CAD, right under this, where it's breaking through down in here, is I'm going to move this support level down a little bit to this 3,200 level. Just looking at that more as a key psychological level, kind of an even number there. I know it's breaking already through this this trough right here in the middle of this double top formation, but I would like to see on here a breakdown below 3,200. For a sell entry. Or if you even wanted to be more conservative on it, you could look for a close below 3,200. And I'm going to put -5 here on the 1-hour totals, but they've already gone +5. I believe it went +5. No, it went, let's see, +5, -5. No, it hasn't gone +5 again. If you see it go +5 here on the 1-hour totals, if it goes negative or in the red, you could use that as a more aggressive confirmation if it goes into the red here at these lows. But I wouldn't trust a breakdown here on dollar CAD unless it makes that full break below the 3,200 level. And then putting the stop right up here, 1.32524. I'm looking for a limit 1-to-1 risk reward. Well, that's one I would consider taking if kind of everything lines up for me. To be honest, I'm not too thrilled about taking a trade this morning, but I'm going through just some situations to where I would really consider one. Just whenever you're looking at just a lack of liquidity in the markets, going back to that Sunday, Monday example I made, you really, that's why we wait until Monday. I would really like to see all the liquidity providers be open and all the full function of liquidity working in the Forex markets. And we could see an overall lack of liquidity in just the markets overall when even the U.S. stock market's open here. They're indicating a little bit of a positive open, but could be a quiet day. You never know, though. I'm going to switch back over to this pound. Dollar CAD's kind of the one that was looking a little bit more attractive to me there. I'm going to switch gears here to the pound and show you a potential setup here for more of a dollar strength type of situation. Speaking of whipsaws, this would be kind of trading into a false break if there were to be one. If there were to be a false break in the markets, this would kind of be the way to trade into it should it occur. You see this 4,200 level right up and through here. In fact, let me just type that out exact. When you zoom out a bit on the chart, you can see 4,200. There was support there, and then that was resistance once it broke down. So it looks at, you can see how consolidated the pound was into the end of last week. Just not a whole lot of action back and forth. So if this were to be a false break right here at the 4,200 level, now that it's passed up above it, you could look for a sell entry for it if it breaks down below. Now, even though there's not a huge amount of liquidity in the market, you got to like the fact that this is diverging, this LP trend line. Even though it's breaking out into higher highs, this LP trend line's been going down. Right over here on the 1 hour totals is showing -6, showing there's not a whole lot of, even the U.S. liquidity providers, who are probably the main liquidity providers in the market right now, aren't too sold into that breakout right there. Since it's been hovering at that -5 level, you could call it a break of 4,200. I prefer to, let me zoom in just a little bit more here. I keep doing that. Stop it. A break of 4,200, I would rather, that's how it generally looks when we look at these types of trades. I would rather look at a close below 4,200. I wrote that break out there just because that's how we generally will say it, a break of 4,200 and a -5 on the 1 hour totals, but I would rather see a close below 4,200. If it were to whipsaw, a close below that 4,200 level would be a nice entry point, and then you put your stop at whatever this swing high happens to be. We don't know what that level would be yet because it's not really done with its movement yet. It doesn't seem like to the upside. And then a limit, 1-to-1 risk reward. Just looking for our 1-to-1 risk rewards today. This market's a little like watching paint dry, to be honest with you. Switch this back over to the euro, and then bring this back. A lot of this really depends on, your view of the markets today, as far as, how aggressive you want to be in the absence of really a lot of liquidity. Now, these European currencies like euro, pound, and Swiss, those are some of the largest liquidity providers that drive the market, as I said before. So when you say, oh man, look at that breakout, you know what? Yes, it's a nice formed little breakout there, but I wouldn't trust it too much. What we're looking at here is actually, when we get the markets all rolling, from an international standpoint and global market standpoint, it's going to be a lot's going to be dependent, I should say, on, once we get, Europe and London markets opened and, all the global markets kind of running together, if we're looking into like tomorrow and going into the long term, as far as like the euro and the pound, if we do get significant run-ups here, we might actually be looking to go long the dollar versus these currency pairs, because that's what's kind of been the overall trend here, has been dollar strength on like the euro, on the pound, and on the Swiss. These are all kind of short-term retracements that we're seeing right now. See the Swiss long-term trend's been dollar strength. So, it's one of those things to where, as we go into tomorrow, if these do retrace down a bit, I think it probably would give us a little bit more room to go in the direction of dollar strength, in the direction of where that medium-term trend has been on all these currency pairs, because a lot of these things look almost like, how should I say it? They almost look like, just retracements, possibly profit taking being taken off of the medium-term trends, meaning the possibility that positions aren't necessarily being opened on going long euro dollar or short dollar Swiss or long pound dollar, but more the possibility that because the medium-term trend, when we look back the last couple weeks here since the FOMC meeting, the medium-term trend has been dollar strong. So a lot of these moves, that's why I think we're looking at a lot of these moves as being the way they are, is because it may just be people closing positions and not necessarily people taking positions on. So that's one of the reasons why, hence the whole false breakout comment. So if the dollar does give into some weakness, that's one of the reasons why I like the dollar CAD, is because, you know, oil is pointing a little bit more upwards this morning, and if the dollar does sell off heavily, I think that dollar CAD can make some lower lows, and it, you know, it's starting to go negative right now, and it's hovering right around that 3,200 level. So once again, just be extremely, extremely cautious today. When you get into trades, I would say manage your risk effectively, and manage it actually even tight on your risk, you know, moving your stops, using kind of that Amelia method of once you reach 50% of your profit, look for trailing that stop down every 3 pips. Last week was not an overly bad week. We had made some money on a pound dollar position. We had lost a small amount of money on an Aussie dollar position, and then made a small amount of money on a euro dollar position as far as going short. Net, I think I was up like 33 pips for the week, which is not stellar, but still it's not horrible in a week where not a whole lot happened. So I'm going to kind of skip over. I'm not going to look at anything on the euro dollar, nothing on the dollar Swiss. This got sent to me from a student. One thing that could be another dollar strength opportunity, if you will, since we are looking at more of an up market type of condition here, is when you look at where the market closed on Friday to this little swing high right up in here. The dollar yen, when you look at it, it's coming off this 61.8, and this 78.6% retracement down here is at the is right at the 113 level, to where it would be covering the 113 level. This one may not be too bad because we are expecting a small, looking at a bit of a bullish market open here, which generally helps the yen, the dollar yen pair go up. And it would be a very small risk reward ratio, if you will. But if you see like you can be on the lookout for, maybe if a Gartley were to form right in through here, coming down to the 113 level, or a touch and close off the 78.6 might also be a possibility here for a dollar strength position, since we are looking at more of a bullish market open, or a slightly bullish market open. So this 113 level, it kind of made a nice little support right in through here at these lows right at 113, right in here. So if it comes down to the lower range of 113, that could give you a little bit of room for a larger risk reward trade. I'll write that one out because that's one that could possibly be a candidate, if you will, for a trade. I almost wrote out the actual 78.6 level. Stop you'd want to put right below where basically the low was on the hourly bars. I don't know why that stop script keeps coming up. This would be a very low amount of risk. Let's see here. You want to put your stop at 112.985. This is one for at least for the short term. You could potentially do a limit 1, 1-to-1 risk reward. Limit 2, I would just go 1 to 1.5 risk reward. That would still keep you below that resistance level, because you'd only be looking at about potentially like 17 pips or 20 pips of risk. So I wouldn't look for a huge run up here. But as far as higher risk reward potential, I think that's really the only one that has it there, and it is kind of in the direction of dollar strength. And the markets are going to be opening here in just a little bit. But slim pickings. Slim pickings in the market. Yeah, we're just now getting the opening bell. By the way, if you're wondering on the dollar yen, I forgot to put it up here on with the PitView indicators, but it's actually showing a +9. It's kind of doing the same thing that the pound's doing. As it's coming down, it's not really it's not making any headway from liquidity provider standpoint. So I thought that was kind of a good sign here that we're getting a bit of a divergence on the dollar yen. I didn't put it up here on the PitView thing, but here we can take a look at it real quick. Let's put it over here. You can kind of see how consolidated it's been from a liquidity standpoint. Made some extreme higher highs right in through here. Now it's making a +5 as it comes down to that 78.6 level. So that would be what we consider a divergence, if you will. A slight one, very slight one. So where are we got? I've kind of waited around here to see if, even though there's not much going on, I wanted to wait around to see how stocks open up. NASDAQ's up 13. Dow's up like 41 right here at the open. So we are getting that positive open that the futures were indicating. Yeah, it looks like they're opening pretty strong here. which is a bit of a positive sign. Probably the closest one to executing. It's over here on dollar CAD. If you're wondering what my take would be on dollar CAD, you know, if you're using PitView on it, is I would wait on dollar CAD for one of two things. You know, at the 3,200 level, if it does go like -5, you could use that as a confirmation. And remember, on dollar CAD, especially if you live here in the United States, this seems like a big stop order. You know, like even if it's 50 or 60 pips. I keep on forgetting to relay this, but remember, it's, you know, for me here in the U.S., it's like a 7-cent pip value on dollar CAD. It's really not a huge pip value, so you're only getting, you know, even if you're risking 50 or 60 pips, or so it may seem, you're still not getting. It's still not a huge amount of risk. It would be like 50 pips would be what, equivalent to like a 35 pip stop order on, let's say, the euro dollar. 60 pips would be the equivalent of what, like 42 pips on the euro dollar. So don't be afraid to put your stop a little bit higher or more out of range, or more at that swing high, if you will, on the dollar CAD if that executes. I would probably say if we get a close beneath 3,200, that would be one confirmation that we can use there. If before we get a close below 3,200, if you see it go to like a -5 range, that would be a good indication on that dollar CAD, or good confirmation. I would say if it's negative and it closes below 3,200, then that would be a fine confirmation on that, as long as that 1 hour total is negative and it's trading below 3,200. That can be kind of an equilibrium between the two, but I would certainly give it just a little bit of room to go. If the markets do continue up, oil will probably continue up. Let's see, it's making a little bit of a move here. But don't let the big bars fool you. So anywho, that's about all I got. You know, those three are probably the three candidates that I would look for today. I'll go ahead and share that with you. The handouts. There we go. Remember, just to reiterate the point, be careful of false breakouts. Don't go too crazy about these breakouts just because of the big bars. Use some confirmation on them. If they're going to be sustained trends, then they'll be sustained trends. But don't go, don't go nutso just because something's making a big bar. That's kind of where they get you in the market sometimes. They'll make a big move up, and if there's a huge amount, and if the pressure is really the other way, a lot of times things will make a big move up, and you'll think it's making a big move up or a big move down, and you'll try to buy in, sell into those trends, and then the market just quickly reverses on you. We've seen it before. So that's all I got really today, folks. I'm kind of looking forward more till tomorrow to see how all the global markets open up after the holiday weekend, and go from there. So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and log out here. Let me know if you do have any questions. And I'll be in front of my computer today for the first time since really last Wednesday night, logged in here. And then I will chat with all of you later. So thanks for coming in today, everybody. Bye-bye.